Okay, hello everyone. I want to kick off today by doing a short review of the last PI, which essentially means the 4 months up until today. Look at the developments over that PI, which was PI 26, and look at what we're going to do in the next PI, the next 4 months, which is PI 27, and how that's reflected in the roadmap, which extends beyond the next PI into the next year or so, and I think, and possibly make some suggestions about how we might need to change that. But we'll come to that. So first of all, let's look at the last PI. So I think the main thing to say is that our big success for the last 4 months is the release of Mojaloop version 17. As Simeon indicated, to me, this is the biggest release we've had for a good few years, probably since version 1, frankly. It's a major step forward in a variety of areas. It filled some key gaps in functionality. So we have now an implementation of foreign exchange as a capability which is built in to Mojaloop. I should say Mojaloop itself doesn't do the foreign exchange. It instead provides a set of protocols and interfaces for a foreign exchange provider, a special class of DFSP. And separately, there's been the development of an inter-scheme capability, so you can link multiple Mojaloops together, be they in the same country or in different countries, and you can actually chain them together in a variety of different geometries, if you like. So, and also there's been the development of the ISO 222 messaging capability. So alongside the existing Mojaloop functional API FSP IOP, you can now use ISO 222 messaging. And there's been the development of an ISO 222 market practice document to show how that will work. I'm not going to go into details of that now, but all of the details are available on the Mojaloop documentation website. Alongside that big step forward in functionality, we've also had significant improvements in quality. The core team, the product quality team, have worked hard to develop, first of all, the software bill of materials, so that we have a tool which scans all of our code and identifies all of the other dependencies on other projects that we have. For example, principally other open source projects. And I have to say that it came as a surprise to me just how many other open source projects Mojaloop relies on. And now we know which versions of which open source projects are used in different elements of Mojaloop. And that has enabled us to bring everything up to a good standard quality, allowing us to identify deprecated libraries, authenticating the provenance of artifacts as well, so that we can ensure that Mojaloop, as released, actually is built on the correct source codes. That has allowed us to harden the releases and improve stability, and generally produce a Mojaloop release which is much more robust and much more reliable than ever before. We've also, as part of that process, done a lot of tweaking of performance, and I would say that now that Mojaloop v17 in the proper configuration can deliver performance at industry standard, which we've defined at in excess of 1,000 TPS. You can do that. You can do probably probably significantly more than that. But as we have charitable status, we don't actually have the money really to spend much time pushing it to different architectures. But we can guarantee that you can achieve at least 1,000 TPS. We do have a project to actually produce a white paper to push to better define that, and that's a piece of work that we're undertaking with a number of partners over the next PI. And lastly, we have a comprehensive approach to DFSP onboarding. We in the last PI, at the beginning of the last PI, we defined a strategy, and we've been executing that strategy. So we have different tools available for different types of DFSP to make the way that they communicate with a Mojaloop hub appropriate to their needs. Moving on. Next. Okay. I want to go through the work streams over the last PI and bring you up to date on what they've been doing. But I also want to point you at the community website. And in particular, there is a link there for active work streams. And if you go to that link, you will find the list. There's a screenshot, as you can see now, which gives you a description of all of the work streams and their current status, whether they're active or dormant or not yet started, whatever it might be, a description of the work stream, what it's trying to do, the business justification, why do we think it's important to do this, critically the latest update. We do a monthly update on the activity in each of the channels, each of the work streams, and that's as updated after the monthly workstream leads call. And then we have the objectives of the workstream, the acceptance criteria, how you can join meetings of the workstream, etc. All the information is there, and it's freely available to anyone who cares to look at it. So looking at the actual work streams, you'll be aware that we organize work streams at the moment according to a pillar model. So we have pillar 1, which is about making adoption easier. And in this pillar, we have 3 work streams. Participation tools, which, as I say, is about onboarding DFSPs in the appropriate manner. The work stream has developed different tools for different types of DFSP. A feature matrix has been drafted describing how which tools should be used for which class of DFSP for different purposes, be it proof of concept or live service. And also the work stream has been developing enhancements to the shared elements of the various tools. And we've recently instituted a DFSP survey to validate the assumptions that have been made by that work stream. This work stream has been very successful in PI 26. Its work continues, and it will carry on into PI 27. In parallel with that, we have a similar work stream, which is specifically aimed at developing participation tools for fintechs. This is making use of the PISP capability of the Mojaloop hub, and this work stream is a consumer of the outputs of that work stream. It's now working to define an open banking API for onboarding fintechs, etc. We're very pleased to say that this is actually being led by Wired In from Rwanda, so in collaboration with RSwitch to identify the requirements. So that's a very good example of a workstream that's being led from the wider community. Deployment tools, how to deploy Mojaloop, the tools that are available to make it as easy as possible in different types of environments. There are multiple deployment tools available. You've probably heard James Bush talking about it yesterday. He's developed a feature matrix to map the tools to the different types or purposes of a deployment, supporting the various different levels of deployment in terms of SLA, reliability, redundancy, and performance, etc. Also, we're working to improve documentation in this work stream, which was, the documentation was there, but it was fragmented and needed bringing up to date. And then at the beginning of the next PI, the first step is a gap analysis to identify the further work required. Pillar two, which is all about achieving scale. So how do you encourage people to use your service once it's live? And we have two work streams within this pillar at the moment. No, five, but there's only two on this page, sorry. First of all, dispute management, and we're going to have a presentation from this work stream later today. The structure and requirements for a dispute management platform have been defined. This is initially focusing on a platform, on a single platform for a single scheme. Multiple candidates have been reviewed for adoption, and the closest match is the platform developed by Auschwitz in Rwanda, which we reckon meets 80% of requirements. A decision on the final implementation approach is needed soon, which will be leading to a development and a pilot by the end of the next PI. This is another one which is being led actually by Auschwitz, so it's again another community-led work stream, which we're very pleased to see. Next one is PISP 2.0. We have a PISP implementation, but we think it needs refining in two areas. One, to support a broader range of business models, and secondly, to include the capability to offer bulk payments via the PISP interface. This is all, the design has now been completed, it's been reviewed by the DA, and development is expected to be completed in PI 27. After that, we think that further extension is likely around notifications and its potential use for FX. And there are other areas as well where we might choose to extend it. Other work streams, LEI addressing. This is a collaboration with GLIFE, the Global Legal Entity Identifier Foundation. And we are looking to, through this work stream, to develop the capability to route a payment with reference to an LEI, a legal entity identifier, which means essentially a government, a company, a corporation, whatever it may be. So specifically relevant for P2G payments or merchant payments. So this work stream has gone through a few iterations of the work stream definition through no fault of the work stream lead. It's just circumstances. It's now tightened its focus to clearly focus on the definition of an addressing framework for cross-border merchant payments based on the LEI. That's the first phase. In a second phase, the pilot will be extended to support LEI registration for small merchants. A draft process in place. This work stream is actually being led by Claire at GLIFE, which is again a great partnership for us. It's really good to see a collaboration of this form, and we expect great things of this. There are two other important work streams in PI 26, which never actually got off the ground, not because they're not important, but simply because there simply wasn't the capacity available to expend time on it. As many of you will be aware, a great deal of effort in the community has gone into the COMESA development and deployment, and the net effect of that was that two work streams never actually began. We do think they're very important though, so they're going to carry over to PI 27, and hopefully we'll be able to kickstart them soon. Next pillar is pillar 3, connect to other systems. There's only one work stream in this pillar, and that's the ISO 222 refinement. ISO 222 has been implemented, but we recognize that work is still required to actually bring it to life, as it were. The market practice document is the principal step in that. One has been produced. There is a draft out for review at the moment, and there are still a few gaps, but these are felt to be minor. Once the market practice document has been finalized, the document will be registered with ISO so that they're publicly available to anyone who wants to know how Mojaloop systems in general manage ISO 222 messages. If you want to have a look at the market practice document, it's being published on our website in the product documentation at the URL there, and you can actually find it if you just go to the product documentation and look through transactions and the APIs from there. The next area is in the foundation, what all the pillars stand on, which effectively defines the quality product. And we actually have 4 work streams here. First is Mojaloop Evolution. And this is where we do where we focus the Tiger Beetle transition, if you like, moving away from MySQL for our central ledger technology to the purpose-built Tiger Beetle technology. That earlier this week, Monday, I think it was, many of you will have seen a prototype of the Tiger Beetle integration for transaction processing, and you saw the massive increase in performance that can be expected there. And that was also accompanied by an overview of how we want to represent in accounting terms what's happening inside a Mojaloop system. Those are the 2 primary activities that have been undertaken so far, and we expect them to be finalized in the next PI. But this work stream is also looking at settlement and looking at a strategy which will essentially move much of the settlement task into Tiger Beetle rather than being conducted by the Mojaloop core. And so that will hopefully improve efficiency of settlement and take some load off the hub when settlement is initiated. The next work stream is performance optimization. The work stream members have defined, want to do some performance testing, essentially, develop a white paper to demonstrate the performance of Mojaloop in different environments. This is potentially an expensive process, and we have managed to get some sponsorship from AWS, and they'll contribute to the white paper as well as just providing some of the infrastructure, and as will Infotechs, and also the foundation has bought its own on-premise infrastructure, so we can develop a variety of scenarios in which we'll be able to evaluate performance of Mojaloop, and we hope to produce a white paper demonstrating the different types of performance around the middle of the next PI. Next, we have platform quality and security. This has been an extremely successful work stream over the last PI. The target was to strengthen the module release process and the overall code base, focusing on issues like licensing, security, and efficiency. Key goals included ensuring proper license headers in source files, better code protection, improving review processes, and using tools like Dependabot to address security vulnerabilities. Mojaloop v17 release addressed these issues and also introduced Helm charts for Kubernetes deployment, improving the artifact provenance. And another ongoing initiative is self-assessing the security processes against the OpenSSF standards, aiming to close any gaps. This is an ongoing work stream. I expect this to continue ad infinitum. There will always be a need for monitoring platform quality and security. Core and releases is obviously an important element, marshalling all of the resources to produce a release. Mojaloop v17 has been released. It's been extensively tested. As an observer of the tests, I can assure you it's been extensively tested. And this included all the new features such as ISO 222 messaging, FX, and the interscheme aspects. The release notes have been made available on the website and Community Central. And there was also a product-oriented blog post that was placed on LinkedIn. Version 17.1 is actually under development even now, addressing a couple of issues that were discovered but which weren't resolved in time for Mojaloop 17. So that's a review of the various work streams. I want to talk about some of the challenges we met over the last PI now. There was a slow start to some PI 26 work streams, which is unfortunate, but reflected the fact that though certainly at the beginning of the PI, there was limited capacity within the community to contribute to a lot of the work streams. And also we had a distinct shortage of experienced work stream leads. Many people were too busy on other stuff. And this signals a need to expand the range of contributors, which we'll be trying to do over the next PI. Next, we identified a need to improve product documentation to assist adopters. There's a lot of very good engineering documentation on the Mojaloop websites, which describes in detail what Mojaloop does. But we feel there is a need to improve documentation around essentially how at a high level. So looking at from a business perspective, more a product management perspective, what is Mojaloop, how does it work, and what are the elements of a Mojaloop distribution, and what do you need to know, providing a link down into the engineering documentation where appropriate. And it's in that product documentation that you'll actually find the ISO 222 market practice document at the moment. Also, it became very clear during the next PI, an issue that had actually gradually risen over the previous PI as well. Product Council needs rethinking. It needs more future thinking, leading to roadmap enhancements. We need to reduce the workstream readout sessions, make them more fit for purpose, make them more attractive to the community. And also want to introduce more accessible sessions for not just systems integrators from the technical side, but also central bankers and potential adopters. And this afternoon, I'll be leading a breakout session about some proposals for how we might structure Product Council for the next PI and beyond. Okay, how are we for time? Fine. I want to talk about the roadmap now. Yeah, thank you. So first of all, let's talk about PI 27's top priorities. These arise kind of naturally out of the workstream review and also talking to members of the community, what they think their priorities are. This doesn't include all of the work streams that are carrying on into PI 27. That's not, if you're not listed here, it's not to say your work stream isn't important. It's just not the primary priority of the community as a whole. So first of all, Tiger Beetle integration. We know that it will introduce significant performance improvements. We already saw that this week. The new settlement capabilities are actually just as important because they facilitate different business models and different ways of settling and multiple settlement models operating in parallel, for example, which is an important step forward for Mojaloop. So we look forward to seeing that ideally at least in pilot version by the end of the next PI. We want better unified deployment tools rather than somewhat piecemeal approach we have, offering a unified approach to the whole thing, properly documented as well. There is lots of documentation there, but now we have reached the point where we actually have we are close to having the full functionality around the deployment tools that we always wanted. We now need to improve the documentation and bring it up to date so that anyone can pick up the documentation and deploy Mojaloop in the environment that they have and for the purpose that they intend. Similarly, we want better, more appropriate participation tools. we have a whole range of ways of encouraging DFSPs to participate, to make it as easy as possible, and we now have a view on which tool is appropriate to which type of participant or DFSP, and we have now begun a DFSP survey to validate our assumptions around that whilst the tools are being built, and that they also will be accompanied by the appropriate documentation. Again, we have a lot of detailed technical documentation, but actually a guide to a DFSP on how best to deploy the most appropriate tool for the most appropriate purpose is something of a gap, and we need to improve our game there. So the work streams for PI 27. I propose that all PI 26 work streams should carry over to PI 27, as you've seen. They all still have a lot of work to do. And to be honest, given the capacity issues in PI 26, I really don't want to introduce new work streams at this moment. There are two exceptions. The first one is that Moses from KPMG East Africa came to the Mojaloop Foundation to propose the creation of a QA assessment framework. This is something I think which reflects the fact that Mojaloop is reaching a degree of functional completeness and readiness for really big time deployments. So we need something which allows an adopter to demonstrate that they have deployed the service and configured it in a way which meets the standards for quality, security, and reliability across a range of service areas. I think that's a great idea. In my vision, I see the development of an assessment framework toolkit, which can be published as an open source product, which allows anyone to take it and validate their deployment, validate their service, not just from a technical perspective, but also addressing things like the roles of various staff in their organization, how the control points are put in place, how the role-based access control has been implemented, how they're managing their supply chains, etc. In a report which could be used, which could be presented to a regulatory authority, for example, to demonstrate that their service is up to scratch. And also, it's entirely reasonable, I think, that an organization such as KPMG could offer that as a service to an adopter, so an independent body validates their deployment. KPMG have offered to produce this themselves, so no significant effort from the community for a tool which I think has potentially a great deal of value. So I strongly propose that this workstream be adopted. Secondly, the Mojaloop Foundation has been discussing with Swift the potential for a Swift Mojaloop interconnect. We therefore propose a workstream to develop a proof of concept in close collaboration with Swift. And Mike, who's in the room, has been very supportive of this, and I strongly propose we adopt this workstream. We don't have to decide today. These will be reviewed as an upcoming product council meeting, probably not next week because of the holidays, but probably the week after. I will schedule that shortly. On that theme, I want to highlight to everyone how they can suggest work streams for adoption by the community. We have 4 channels for raising a suggestion. Actually, there's 5. I just remembered another one. Number 1, you can come to any product council meeting and anyone is free to raise their hand and suggest a new work stream, a new requirement. Separately, we have the Mojaloop Slack channel at product council. Just make a suggestion there. That's fine. You can email me to suggest a requirement. Also, you can go to the product council repo at product-council/issues, and you can just add an issue there, and the members of the product council will be alerted to that. The fifth one is actually through the Mojaloop community website. There is an option there to submit a requirement. When requirements have been raised, they will then be discussed at the following product council meeting, and depending on the response there, we can seek to identify a work stream lead and to tightly identify the objectives and the acceptance criteria, and then seek adoption in the wider community. Now, I just wanted to have a word about the pillars. You heard me mention them before, where the three pillars support the goals of the Mojaloop community, and the three pillars themselves are supported by the delivery of a quality product. I just want to highlight the fact that I think that perhaps these have the pillars are now they've had their use, they've had their usefulness, but they're becoming less useful, particularly in view of the priorities that we've identified for the next PI. So I suggest that at Product Council we review these pillars and perhaps identify another approach for classifying our work streams. I just raise that as a potential issue because I've become less comfortable with these pillars as we have reached a point where we're approaching functional maturity. This is the roadmap as at yesterday when I last updated it. I'll stop sharing this screen because I'll go to a version of this that you can actually read. So as you see at the moment, it is still organized according to those pillars, and we will perhaps review that, and in the coming months we may well change that. So across the top here you can see the PIs. There's the PI 26, which has just ended, PI 27, which we've just begun, and 28, 29, 30, etc. So here are the Mojaloop releases. We have version 17, which has just been released, and then 17.1, which we expect in the coming weeks, which will include some refinements to the SDK at the participant side to better support request to pay. Version 18 will be at the end of PI 27, and we expect to see there the first iteration of the Tiger Beetle integration, some refinements to settlement version 3, some new FX functionality for different business models, and additional features we expect to be included there are payments addressing using LEIs and a dispute management platform. Version 19, we expect to see the refactored bulk payments in place, and the performance white paper and QA framework may be delayed until then. Swift, the Swift interconnection, we expect that perhaps to be in version 20. It may come forward to version 19. We'll see how development goes. As you can see, we expect the participation tools workstream to continue ad infinitum. For the participation tools for fintechs, we expect that to finish by the end of the next PI. Deployment tools will continue again. It's a continuous workstream. The QA framework for adopters is dotted because this has not been adopted yet, and we need Product Council to adopt that workstream. Dispute management, again, by the end of the next PI. PISP 2.0, which the participation tools for fintechs is dependent on, we expect that to be completed by the end of the next PI. Similarly, LEI addressing, we may get to pilot by the end of the next PI, but production versions might go into the one after that, particularly if we include the phase 2 of LEI registration. Refactoring bulk payments, we expect that to be finished for proof of concept or pilots in the next PI, but production version maybe after that. FX refinements, I expect that to be completed by the end of the next PI. ISO 222 refinements should be finished in the coming weeks, really. The Swift interconnection, again, that's dashed because it hasn't yet been formally adopted. Mojaloop evolution, Tiger Beetle and Settlement v3, they should be finished at least for pilot in the next PI, and production maybe in the PI after that. Performance optimization will continue. That will include a white paper, but work may continue after that. Next-gen cross-border settlement is a work stream that may come out of the strategic work stream here of cross-border settlement. This is currently being led by Julie, but that may produce a technical work stream in the next PI. Core and releases and platform quality and security, they are two core work streams which will always be there, managing our releases and making sure that quality and security is being assured. Down at the bottom, we have 3 non-technical work streams, one of which keeps an eye on developments in the cross-border space, in particular FATF recommendations. You'll have heard Michael earlier this week talking about recommendation 16, and clearly we have a close eye on that, but also developments from other big participants in the cross-border world, like the IS, etc. Cross-border settlement is a strategic work stream looking at innovative approaches to cross-border settlement, including stablecoins, etc. And at the bottom here, we have a holding one strategic work stream for ISO 222 for open banking. Do we need to look at the open banking interface and possibly talk to the ISO 222 working groups about extensions to support open banking? And that one is an open question. Okay, and I just wanted to highlight the fact that not all of our identified work streams are on that screen. We maintain a work stream backlog. These are things which people have suggested we should be focusing on, but we simply don't have the capacity for at the moment. They may be added to the roadmap in the future if there becomes an urgent requirement. So the first one is some form of interconnect for PAPs. It may be for transactions, or it may be using PAPs for settlement. We need to explore that further. Some adopters have identified this as a priority, but it hasn't risen high enough as yet for anyone to say, yes, we need this in the next 6 months. Second is actually developing the PISP or 3PPI interface a little further. So it doesn't just focus on payment initiation, but also focuses on account information. This is something that we could do reasonably straightforwardly as an extension to our PISP 2.0 work. However, nobody has identified that it's something that we need right now. It's just something on the horizon. Next is multiple alias resolution, handling duplicate resolutions, managing payee preferences, allowing DFSPs, or indeed, where appropriate, the payees themselves to manage those preferences. Support for domestic debit schemes for P2P or R2P. That's something that's come up a number of times in a number of markets, but again, not yet something that's reviewed as a priority, but it's one of those things that could become a priority very quickly. For G2P or other forms of social payments, we currently have the ability to route payments to a MOSIP identifier. That's an open source identity program. We could extend that form to other forms of digital ID or national ID. It's something that's been proposed, but there is no urgent requirement. And lastly, there's language and time zone localization. Again, this is something that everybody says they want, but nobody will commit resources to. And consequently, it fell off the roadmap back into the backlog simply because there were no resources being dedicated to it. If anyone else has other suggestions, other requirements, I've given you the 5 different ways of notifying myself and the product council about those requirements. Please do, and hopefully we'll get them added to the backlog. And if there's sufficient interest or demand, we will get them onto the roadmap after that. But in my view, Mojaloop is approaching the point of core functionality completeness, though a lot of refinement and documentation is still needed, particularly in the areas of interconnectivity, cross-border transactions, and settlement. That's not to say that development is anyone complete, but principal objectives for PI27, which focus on Tiger Beetle, better deployment tools, better onboarding tools, suggest that we're living through an evolution in focus. And so in particular, the pillars may have served their purpose, and I want to review that. And also there's a need now to refine the long-term roadmap, to stop looking inwards and to broaden our focus outwards more. And I think this is best done in collaboration with industry leaders and active members of the Mojaloop community. So all of this might imply there's a need to reform Product Council and the way it operates. And I'll be laying out some proposals in this afternoon's session titled Reshaping Product Council, which I hope will be viewed as a discussion, and we can take forward any decisions into a future Product Council, and hopefully the Community Council as well will be engaged in refining those proposals. And on that note, I'd like to say thank you and open it to any questions.